50,000 watts of news and talk. News Talk 720 KDWN, Las Vegas, the dawn of today's talk radio.
You started talking about steps you take, mistakes you make, the heart you break, and the price you pay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Lynch and Ellen Arnold, Miracles in Recovery.
Oh, I've been there. That's why I'm here.
Feel free to join us at 855-STOP-USING.
Or visit our website, miraclesinrecovery.net.
Changing the person that you brought in. What I mean by that is needing to change the person that stepped into recovery or not even at the recovery process yet, but wanting to do something different than what you were doing. I had to completely change myself. The things that I knew that I had to change immediately in order to stay.
The recovery process for me was a little bit different because when I walked into the rooms of Al-Anon, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me at all.
You needed to change you in order to be able to make the person that needed the change as well, maybe hopefully recognize it. My mother had to make some drastic changes in her life in order for me to be able to even become aware that there was something not right with my thought process. For the longest time, I thought that it was acceptable behavior of how I was acting because everybody around me was acting the same way. I found myself around people that were doing the things that I do and pretty much justifying it.
Well, it becomes normal behavior for you. Anything outside of that's probably considered abnormal when you're using.
Lying, cheating, stealing, that all became normal behavior. I think I knew when I first came in, or when I first decided to surrender, that I needed to change that person because deceit would only get me right back where I was. I can't say that I'm the most honest, upstanding citizen today, but I strive to be.
Yeah, I think that honesty is what's lacking in addicts, and I often wonder, do you guys even have a conscience when you're in the throes of the disease?
I know I didn't, and I deal with addicts today that are in recovery that still don't.
That's such a hard thing to accept, from a family standpoint. It's like, where did the person that I knew go?
And the sad thing is that they may never come back.
I know.
They may get well and they may, become a productive member of society, but you may not ever get back to the moral standard that you did have. And please visit our website at miraclesinrecovery.net. Miraclesinrecovery.net.
Or call in at 855-STOP-USING. 855-STOP-USING.
Fortunately enough, I was given morals when I was a child, and I chose to lock them in some closet with about 15 different padlocks on it when I decided to use. But I knew that somewhere there was a key hidden, and I found the key within sponsorship and my personal self-help program. For the longest time, being deceitful and devious and lying and cheating and stealing went all along with who I was. So how was I going to, just because I didn't want to get high that day, get rid of all of that stuff as well? That was the challenge. I mean, putting down the drug, everybody says, oh, I'll die if I don't have drugs or something like that. That's not the challenge. The challenge is changing the person that accepted that behavior.
It's kind of changing your heart, I think. When I began my recovery, I stepped into the rooms thinking, I'm going to find a way to make my daughter stop using. They're going to teach me how to do that. And that is not at all what my program ended up being. It ended up being a program for me, for my recovery. It taught me that I was sick, as sick at least as she was, maybe sicker. It taught me that I needed to look at myself and that I needed to, instead of spending most of my time obsessing about what she was doing, trying to fix her, trying to find the right thing to say, the right place to put her, the right counselor, the right driving her to meetings, making her go in, sitting there with her, what I needed to do was focus on myself. And that's a very difficult thing to do. People would say that and I would say, what do you mean? How do you do that? I thought I was doing that. And they'd say, take care of yourself. Well, I went to the doctor, I got my hair done. But that's not what that means at all. It's looking at yourself and how you are, what your issues are, what your character defects, character assets are, rather than focusing on the person in your family who's using.
Really what you're doing at that point is when you're minimizing what's going on inside of you, you're just looking at the behavior of the addict that's in front of you. Behavioral-wise, that allowed me to stay the emotional terrorist because of that reason. When people started turning off and not engaging what I was doing, and they emotionally shut down from me, is when I went, hey, wait a minute. There's absolutely something going on here. And it made me, even in my most doped stupor, realize that I really didn't have control over what I was doing. And I thought I did. You know, I thought that negativity, I thought I was the one that was pushing all the buttons. The only reason why I was the one that was pushing all the buttons is because the people allowed me to do it.
It's all that manipulation that you guys do.
Uh-huh.
One of the biggest things that they teach us is to detach from what your addict is doing and focus on yourself and let them suffer the consequences of their behavior. And I spent many, many, many years putting a mattress underneath my daughter so that when she fell, it wasn't too hard. You know, she did spend time in jail. She spent a lot of time, you know, I would kick her out, so she'd spend time sleeping in the park or whatever, but that didn't last very long.
Uh-huh.
And it just, being able to focus on me and detach from her, I think, was one of the things that helped her to get where she is now.
Do you find yourself maybe sometimes sliding that mattress underneath her again?
A little bit occasionally,
Yeah.
but not the way that I used to. She is pretty much self-supporting, except she is living in my house and not paying rent. She bought herself a car. She makes her car payments. She makes her insurance payments. She buys her own food. She gets her nails done herself instead of me paying for them. She gets her hair done herself. She buys her own clothes. All of those things I was doing for her. You know, when she has to get her car fixed, she has to pay for it. Those are things that she was never able to do before.
All of that stuff, being able to buy sneakers and being able to buy a new pair of shoes, and pales in comparison to what I needed to do inwardly in order to change the person that won't use.
Most definitely. And in her, I have seen a heart change too. Most addicts are kind of narcissistic and self-centered, and that's changing, but it hasn't changed completely, and maybe it never will. Addicts get better in different degrees to be able to function with people who aren't in a program. You know, what we call earth people is maybe not easy. You know, you have your home group, you have your set of sober friends. To go beyond that sometimes can be dangerous.
It is a process, and it doesn't happen overnight. I'm totally aware that it took so many years for me to get to where I am. Actually, it took 23 years to get to where I am today. I still have to remain teachable. I do know that today I don't accept the person that I used to be, but for the longest time I didn't know who I'd be without them.
It's the simple things in life, like a kid's at home and a loving wife, that you miss the most when you lose control.
You're listening to Miracles in Recovery. Ray and Ellen will be right back.
I grew up in a normal home in a normal town. All of a sudden, everything got crazy. I didn't talk to anybody about the way I was feeling. I was scared and I was alone. I started drinking. I just didn't want to deal with what was happening in my life. I knew about AA, but thought I was too young. I found out I was wrong. If you have a problem with your drinking, why don't you give AA a call? Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Recovery is what happens at NA meetings. It is possible to stop using drugs.
Call Narcotics Anonymous.
Everything you love starts to disappear. The devil takes your hand and says, no fear, have another shot. Just one more beer.
Now back to Miracles in Recovery with Ray Lynch and Ellen Arnold.
Changing the person that you brought in. I wasn't sure if I'd like the person that I became. Feel free to join us at 855-STOP-USING.
Or visit our website, miraclesinrecovery.net.
Looking back, I know I definitely don't want to be that person that I was. And it gives me the horrors that even allowed myself to get to that stage in like mental illness, to accept second-class citizen living.
Yeah, when you come from a nice family, and I'm quite sure that your family was suffering at least as much, if not more, because, you know, you could at least get high and not know. They're just literally anguished over what they see happening to you.
They had to start their process of change.
Literally heard your mother say she had to get up in front of a group of people and tell you goodbye. And, you know, for a mother, that's heartbreak. I guess she had come to the realization, which we all have to do, is there is nothing she could do to help you. Things they teach us when we first walk into the rooms of Al-Anon or Nar-Anon is, I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I can't cure it. Because we're trying to do all three of those things and making ourselves insane. And we call it the 3 C's. But the 4th C is I can contribute to it.
And that's why I'm so grateful that there are programs to help family members of addicts, because without it, only the addict recovers, and they may not recover to a stage of blissful living. We know somebody specifically that is still carrying the damage of 3, 4, 5 years ago. That relationship will never be able to flourish or grow because it's all of that is still hanging over the top.
The family is sick, and the family was probably sick before the addict got into full-blown addiction. And if the family doesn't recover, it's going to make it that much more difficult for the addict. And I know some that just can't go back and be with their families very much because it's too difficult. And the recovery has to be the most important thing.
But I think it was more so a lot of guilt and feeling that I dragged my family into this with me, thinking at that point, that narcissistic thinking that it was still all about me, that I caused all the damage within my family. And I really didn't.
The damage was probably done long before you ever started on your journey of addiction. But most of the time, the families don't realize that, and we come in thinking there's nothing wrong with me. Just nobody will listen to what I say. If they do what I said, everything would be fine. And what you have to realize is you can't control anybody but yourself.
Please visit our website at miraclesinrecovery.net. miraclesinrecovery.net.
Or call in at 855-STOP-USING. 855-STOP-USING.
You said about, nothing's wrong with me, or it wasn't me, it was them that caused all of this big stir. Looking back, I don't point any reason or any blame on somebody else that I chose to use. I mean, I chose to do that. I can say that my family was more than likely broken even before I chose to use.
Right.
Was that the reason? No. Did it contribute to it? It could have. That's not important. What I'm saying about changing the person that you brought in is I needed to change the lying. I needed to change the stealing. I needed to change the cheating. I needed to change all of that crap because the person that walked in that door still will use today. The person that is sitting here today has a better chance of not using because I've changed a lot of the things that I used to do. If I went back into the pattern of the same person that I was, then using is just as available as lying. It's not about the using, it's about all of the other deceitful stuff around me. Einstein said once, you can't simultaneously prepare for war and practice peace. You're doing one or the other. I can't be practicing recovery and preparing to relapse. I'm doing one or the other. When I'm preparing for relapse, that means that I am sliding back into the person that I was. I'm lying more, I'm cheating more, I'm stealing, I'm doing all of the things that I did so that ultimately when I use, that's acceptable in my mind.
You're rebuilding that bridge over to the other side.
How cunningly we can build that bridge and not really be aware of it. That's why we need to surround ourselves with good, positive people. We talked about the show before about sponsorship. We need to stay close to a person so that they have, it's not only us, but they have a gauge as well to say, hey, maybe you ought to do this, or hey, maybe you ought to do that, or why don't you look at that behavior? I've seen a lot of things happen in the time that I've been clean that were telltale signs of people going back out, and they choose not to look at it, and then they come back in, they're getting a white keychain, or they're getting a one-day chip, or they're getting something, and don't know why. They have no idea how they got to the other side so quick. It started when you started reverting back into that person, or you chose not to change the person that came in the door. It is a lifelong process, and I still have to today be readily aware of who I am, how I count, and what I mean is how I count in society, and what I do, just very basically. I wouldn't even think twice about waiting 3 or 4 seconds to hold the door for somebody if I was walking through it when I was a mess. I'll do that today only because it's the right thing to do. And as long as I keep doing the right thing, then I have a better shot at doing this.
Going to as many meetings as you need to go to. And, I still go to several meetings a week, sometimes up to 5 or 6. It helps me stay in touch with who I need to be, not who my daughter needs to be, not what my family needs to be doing, but what I need to do every day.
Because it's actually not about them anymore. It's about you, and you're the one that wants to change you, and you're the one that wants to keep you going on the path that you're going on.
They started talking about steps you take, mistakes you make, the heart you break, and the price you pay. I almost walked away.
You can reach Ray or Ellen through the toll-free number 1-855-STOP-USING. 1-855-STOP-USING. You're listening to Miracles in Recovery. More with Ray and Ellen coming up.
I had 5 drunk driving charges in the last 6 years of my drinking, and I drank for over 55 years. My probation officer threatened me with a year in jail. So the next day I went to my first AA meeting. I had tried many times in my life to quit drinking, but always went back to even heavier drinking. For me, the AA program has been the easier, softer way to stop drinking. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
I worry about my boyfriend. One minute he's supportive, the next minute everything is my fault. After he's had too many beers, he gets really angry and I become the target. My best friend, a social worker, told me to try Al-Anon family groups. It was a great relief to hear a new perspective for my problems. Are you troubled by someone's drinking? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon family group meeting from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or visit AlanonFamilyGroups.org.
Don't turn us off. Keep listening because you will hear something that you need to hear. Need to hear.
And traps you can fall into.
Don't turn us off. Miracles in recovery. Help. Miracles in recovery. Hope. Change. Don't turn us off. Keep listening because you will hear something that you need to hear. Don't turn us off. Keep listening because you will hear something that you need to hear on the Miracles in Recovery radio show. Feel free to join us at 855-STOP-USING.
Or visit our website, miraclesinrecovery.net.
Changing the person you brought in. You were saying something about you needed to start doing it for you.
I needed to understand, first of all, that I'm the only person in this world that I can change, and that perhaps I need to change. Because I really thought I was pretty much perfect. You know, you don't consciously think that, but after sitting, in meetings and hearing people talk about it, it was like, wow, yeah. Now, I didn't think that I came in to get her clean, but I did. I didn't come in there for me. I was pretty much a broken person. But first meeting that I went to, what I heard made me run away until things got infinitely worse. Because I didn't think that was going to happen to me. I was going to change this. I was going to control this situation. I was going to fix it. I couldn't.
I know, when I go to meetings today, I have justifiable reason to be sitting there because I can remember the things that I did. I don't go because my mother had to say goodbye to me, and I don't go because my brother and sister had to walk across on the other side of the street from me. I go because of the damage that I carry in my memory of who I became. Do you still use your daughter as a motivator to go to meetings, or do you go because you feel comfortable sharing about what it is that you are doing?
Living with active addiction for as long as I did, there's a lot of carnage and wreckage that happens in the family, and I don't know that you ever, I don't want to say get over it, because you do get past it. I go for me. I go to improve myself. There are problems that occur in life that don't have anything to do with your addict or your alcoholic that you can still find help for. I go to be able to talk out my problems. I go to be able to help somebody else who's maybe coming in, the newcomer that walks in the door who's broken and crying and, feeling like they can fix things like I was.
But what is your motivator? Is your motivator you, or is your motivator...
Oh, my motivator is me.
You've ultimately changed the person that you came in for, because you went in, you said to
fix her.
To fix her. And now you're staying
to fix me.
To fix you. And that's what 12-step recovery programs do. They change the person that came in, or you don't go. Because I know plenty of people that have gone and said, yeah, that's just not for me.
Well, and I know a lot of what we call double winners who are addicts or alcoholics, but they also come, to Al-Anon or Nar-Anon because they have other people in their families that are addicts or alcoholics. They need to deal with those issues as well. It doesn't start out of nowhere usually. There's precipitating stuff that goes on in the family that maybe, a lot of addicts and alcoholics could use the assistance of the family group.
That's true, because there was a little time there where I went just to try to get an understanding of what it was that was coming at me. Being a recovering addict and dealing with an active addict was the craziest thing in the world, because I found myself justifying or enabling their using.
Yeah, you become, some of the worst enablers I've ever seen are recovering alcoholics and addicts.
Feel free to join us at 855-STOP-USING.
Or visit our website, miraclesinrecovery.net.
I was in a spot where I was like, well, what's going on here? I mean, I'm not allowing myself to use.
But you're getting crazy.
And I'm getting crazy over allowing someone else to use. And I had no idea. I absolutely couldn't find it. What I knew in my 12-step program. I was actually sitting in meetings next to you and
saying you didn't like being there.
Right.
You didn't like my side of the fence. It hurts.
But you know something? I get to process from the other side a little bit. And it allowed me to be able to understand full circle what we do as addicts to the people that we love. Or the
I'm
people
sure
that
it gave
love
you
us.
some empathy for what your family went through.
I went back through all of the processing of what it was that I did. You know, it really wasn't a nice place to be. But I'm grateful that I went through it because it gave me a little more insight as to who I was and how much I've changed and how far I've come in such a short time. I say such a short time. It's been 23 years. That's quite a long time when you look at it year in and year out. But in the life of an addict, we can revert back to day one.
One day at a time is such sometimes it's 1 minute at a time. And I have friends in my fellowship whose loved ones have gone back out after 20 years.
And there's no guarantee that they're going to come back.
The ones that I'm thinking about didn't, unfortunately. If they've been in recovery that long, it usually means they're older, and a couple of them didn't make it.
The knowledge that I have, I'd be terrified to use because I think that with everything that I've gained, my disease still tells me on a daily basis that I'm less than. So can you imagine if I'm using how less than I'll feel? I don't think I'd be able to face what it was that I've reverted back into. And so that's why I just keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing the next right thing and standing in the line that says correct instead of incorrect. There is a better way to live. And it is through the spiritual programs of Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, Cocaine Anonymous. Find a program you are comfortable with and find a new way to live.
That's why I'm here.
If you have comments and questions for Ray or Ellen, you can go online and contact them through the website at www.miraclesinrecovery.net. That's miraclesinrecovery.net. Miracles in Recovery is a Ray Lynch Miracle Mike production.
Thank you for joining us on Miracles in Recovery.
You're never alone.
Hope is in your corner.